Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Dr. Fajar Ihsan and my fellow friends. Today, my group will presenting about the Belt and Road Initiative China versus Indo-Pacific Strategy USA, a comparison based on Malaysia and Indonesia response. This group consists of 6 people which are Anis Kamila, Siti Aisyah, Ismadin Afiq, Hakim Jaiz, Siti Balkis and Halimah Stura. So, without wasting our time, let's start it with the introduction.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Halimah Stura binti Muhammad Noor. My metric number is 278107. So, I will start about the introduction part. First and foremost, let me explain what is the definition of foreign investment. Foreign investment in general refers to the foreign investor investment in domestic enterprise and asset of other countries. It plays a critical role in the global economy as it provides countries with access to capital, technology and expertise. By understanding the different type of foreign investment, country can create policies and regulation that encourage investment and promote economic growth. In simple words, when money will flow from the other country to another country, then it's called foreign investment. There are two main types of foreign investment. The first one is foreign direct investment or FDI. FDI is when a foreign investor makes a direct investment in a company or organization located in a foreign country. This type of investment is long-term and often involve a large capital investment. In FDI, the investor has substantial ownership or influence over the investment. The most common in FDI are stocks, bonds, real estate, and mutual funds. The second investment is indirect foreign investment or IFI. IFI refers to the investment that made through the intermediaries or third parties. It can be in the form of mergers or an acquisition, or we call it M&A. IFI is when a foreign investor invests in a domestic company, which in turn invests to another company located in another country. For example, it includes hedge funds, mutual funds, and unit trusts. The second part is the definition of the development. Development is a broad and comprehensive concept that leads to the purpose of planned improvement process to achieve certain goals. The word development itself is wisely used to refer to a particular state of progress or growth. It can also be used to describe a new and advanced idea or product, or an even the form of new stage in changing situation or something that make progress. So generally, the term development describes a good change, so that we are able to tell between which country are more or less developed. In terms of wealth, it may be easier for us to identify which country are richer or poorer than other countries. What is the Belt and Road Initiative versus Indo-Pacific Strategy? So, the Belt and Road Initiative or BRI is one of the China's diplomatic approach that places a strong emphasis on the economic advantage of generally gaining the support of the nation in the region. So, however, in the eyes of the international community, the Indo-Pacific Strategy or IPS, which unites Japan, US, Australia and India, is seen as a regional cooperation alliance that rivals the BRI. So competition and cooperation characterize the competition relationship between the BRI and the IPS, which will increase the level of uncertainty in the political economic landscape globally. In BRI, China strongly promotes the construction of the infrastructure in the several countries, particularly through loan from banking institution with the ties of the government. On the other hand, the IPS want to promote economic growth in the Pacific Ocean area for increased infrastructure and open commerce. With the aim of enhancing regional connectivity, ASEAN has aggressively embraced the BRI, and different infrastructure projects are currently being carried out in ASEAN nation with the assistance of China. Malaysia and Indonesia are one of the Asian members that involved in these two projects. So in this study, we will examine how Malaysia and Indonesia approach in IPS and BRI.
Hi, my name is Anis Kamila binti Jaridan, no metric 287715. Today I will present about the background of the Belt and Road Initiative and the Indo-Pacific strategies. The Belt and Road Initiative BRI is a key component of China's effort to create a more secure trade route, stimulate an economy of the country's center, provide and build economies and political influence for China. It also provides an alternative market for China's state-owned companies beyond the border of China, and is seen as a key element in China's effort to create its own more secure trade route. The initiative defines 5 major priorities. First, policy coordination, infrastructure connectivity, unimpeded trade, financial integration, and connecting people. Okay, next I will present about the Indo-Pacific strategy. The United States is committed to an Indo-Pacific that is free and open, connected, prosperous, secure, and resilient. To realize division, the US will strengthen its own role while reinforcing the region itself. This approach draws from the allied with those of our closest friends, such as Japan, Australia, the ROK, ASEAN, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, France, and the Europe Union. It will be principled long-term and anchored in democratic resilience. The US will seek to maintain stability and reject coercive exercise of power, promote regional security through capacity building, see Southeast Asia as central to the regional architecture, and build resilience in the regional rule-based order.
Now we will move to the next part, which is theoretical approach. The first one is liberalism. As for the BRI, liberal international relations scholars argue that China has neither the intention nor the capacity to challenge or overthrow the liberal rule-based international order. They also believe that the liberal rule-based order is so resilient that China's BRI will follow the basic rules of the game. However, there is a logic flaw in the liberal perspective. China has a rising power is no longer a rule taker but between a rule maker and a rule breaker, which means the Chinese leadership does not intend to overthrow the existing international order. Additionally, China's development has largely disappointed many liberals' expectations of an inevitable democratization led by China's economic development and integration into the liberal international order. Finally, BRI seems to be less rule-based in practice than many liberals claim it to be. Meanwhile, as for the Indo-Pacific strategy, liberalism starts with the individual, not the state. State preferences are derived from society, but it is mostly states that interact and negotiate among themselves in the international system. Neoliberal institutionalism is a variant of liberalism that seeks to explain cooperation among egotists from a systemic perspective. It assumes that mutual interests among states exist and analyzes the conditions under which they will lead to international cooperation. The decision to join or remain in an institution is taken by state actors on purely rational, cost-benefit terms. If an open trade area of this caliber arises, it is expected to have positive consequences not only for the welfare of the states that conform it, but also for the prospect of peace. This optimism explains that the potential effect of the Indo-Pacific for international politics as an open trade area of the caliber could reduce transaction costs and increase welfare, but also bring about a more peaceful world. Next, we will move to the realism. As for the BRI, realists define interest in terms of power and maintain that international politics is ultimately a struggle for power and interest. China is likely to follow this fundamental logic and attempt to become a regional hegemon in Asia. China's BRI is viewed as one of the most important strategies to achieve this goal. Some observers claim that China's BRI serves the geopolitical function of killing two birds with one stone, amassing strategic influence in Eurasia's heartland while deftly avoiding direct competition with the United States. However, realists emphasize the political and security implications of China's BRI and are generally pessimistic about the future, characterized by the inevitable Sino-US competition and conflicts. Krishna argued that the offensive realist prediction that China will bid for the regional hegemony is contradictory with its assumption that survival is the number one goal of great powers. It is necessary to seek a more nuanced understanding of East Asia international relations by exploring the perception of states and norms that guide their behaviors in the region. Okay, as for the Indo-Pacific strategy, from a realist perspective, the security dilemma is a future of the international system, one that to some extent operates in tandem with the perennial balance of power in world politics. However, some sort of security alliance, and not only internal balancing, would be necessary to actually create a sense of regionness in the vast expanse covered by the Indian and Pacific Ocean. Even if it would not need to be as formalized as NATO, the post-World War II emblematic security association. Interestingly, French President Emmanuel Macron seems to have recognized as much when in 2018 he expressed his desire to create an Indo-Pacific axis formed by Paris, New Delhi and Canberra as a sign of geopolitical ambition. China, for its part, has been largely dismissive of Indo-Pacific construct. But the concerted action of the Indo-Pacific countries are not what worries China, and Beijing is right. From a realist perspective, the mostly disjointed balancing efforts directed toward China, even if framed within a wider international discourse, do not a security alliance make?
Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. I will continue the presentation with a summary of the literature review on the Belt and Road Initiative BRI by China and Indo-Pacific Strategy IPS by United States. There are various important initiatives outlined by the two strategies, and there is much ongoing debate about its geo-economic and geostrategic implications. This is because both countries have strong global and regional power when compared to other countries. Other than that, it is also become a focus of geographic competitions between China and the US. Initially, the US did not take China BRI seriously, but in recent years, it has begun to recognize the potential political and economic threat posed by BRI. As a result, a clash of the strategy has emerged, becoming the main focus of the current geo-competition between China and the US. Through the view of US policy experts, they think that China policy is related to the implementations of BRI. They also believe that BRI is capable of providing a political and economic threat to the US in short term and long term. This is because the implementation of BRI gives China an opportunity to expand its economic interests and strengthen its relationship with BRI partner country to obtain dividend and political interest for their country. However, economists and academics argue that BRI face constraints due to the geopolitical factor, opposition from countries like Japan, India and European nations, as well as concern from US economists have impeded a China effort to expand its influence. These critics fear that BRI could challenge US hegemony and lead to the formation of the Eurasian continent and a new globalization movement initiated by China. In response, the US has launched the Indo-Pacific strategy supported by Japan, Australia and India with the aim of countering China power. This strategy focuses on military strength, reintegrations of the regional order and building defense partnership. However, debate exists regarding the emphasis on military expand and the formation of substantive military alliance. In the meantime, the US needs to keep moving forward in realizing that a deliberate geo-economic strategy is essential. The US must recognize the importance of a geo-economic strategy and the need to compete in foreign market by utilizing diplomatic and economic influence. It seeks to overcome the BRI by investing in physical infrastructure that benefit the US and its strategic partner. In conclusions, these two strategies have led to a confrontations between China and the US, known as the US-China trade war. These confrontations poses a threat to regional stability and security, as regional countries depend on China economically and the US politically. The presence of this competing strategy disrupt regional connectivity and economic development. It is clear that both China and the US aspire to rise as major power in the world. Next, I will pass it to Akim. Thank you.
Belt and Road Initiative and Indo-Pacific Strategy aims to balance economic power in Asia and the world. Malaysia and Indonesia have different views on this initiative. So we will see the Malaysia's perspective on the Belt and Road Initiative by individual level of analysis. So we start under Prime Minister Najib Razak. Malaysia have welcomed and actively engaged with the BRI. Significant economic cooperation projects were intertied, such as the Malaysia Kuantan Industrial Park and Malaysia-China Digital Free Trade Zone. However, after the change of government under Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, entirely criticized the BRI but later expressed the support for strengthening relations with China throughout the initiative. Next, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin recognized China's role in upholding the international trade system and cooperate under the BRI, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Muhyiddin Yassin valued China as a Korea partner, welcome collaboration, a COVID-19 vaccine, and support more Chinese investment in Malaysia. So we will see the Indonesia perspective on BRI. Presiden Joko Widodo show the support on economic cooperation with China throughout the BRI. Indonesia joined the ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank (AIIB) and combined its global maritime vision with China's 20th century military state road. Jokowi economic diplomacy is aimed to fulfill Indonesia's economic interests and promote economic diplomacy. The Belt and Road Initiative and Indonesia-China Road fosters cooperation between China and Indonesia. So we will see how Indonesia and Malaysia look on IPS. IPS stand on this complex and delicate. While not explicitly supporting or rejecting the IPS, Indonesia and Malaysia prioritize inclusively discussion and collaboration in the Indo-Pacific region. Malaysia and Indonesia emphasize an open policy cooperation and respect of international law and peaceful solution. This country seeks to avoid perceiving the IPS as exclusive or aggressive. Malaysia and Indonesia position on the IPS may evolve based on geopolitical dynamic and regional development. So for the conclusion is, Malaysia has shown a positive response to the Belt and Road Initiative and also to the Indo-Pacific strategy, with the various leaders supporting and engaging with the initiative. Indonesia support economic cooperation throughout the BRI but maintain open inclusive outlook on the IPS. Both countries navigate their interests while promoting regional collaboration and harmony. Now I will pass to the next presenter. We will see how Indonesia and Malaysia look on IPS. IPS stand on this complex and delicate. While not explicitly supporting or rejecting the IPS, Indonesia and Malaysia prioritize inclusively discussion and collaboration in the Indo-Pacific region. Malaysia and Indonesia emphasize an open policy cooperation and respect of international law and peaceful solution. This country seeks to avoid perceiving the IPS as exclusive or aggressive. Malaysia and Indonesia position on the IPS may evolve based on geopolitical dynamic and regional development. So for the conclusion is, Malaysia has shown a positive response to the Belt and Road Initiative and also to the Indo-Pacific strategy, with the various leaders supporting and engaging with the initiative. Indonesia support economic cooperation throughout the BRI but maintain open inclusive outlook on the IPS. Both countries navigate their interests while promoting regional collaboration and harmony. Now I will pass to the next presenter.
As a small country, Malaysia decided to strike a balance between major and minor power as Malaysian diplomats work with the OIC as a Muslim country to give voice to and isolate Islamic extremism and radicals when President just delivered the either you are with us or against us. This led to establishment of the region Southeast Asia Regional Centre for Counter-Terrorism, which is SEARCCT, under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2003. The SEARCCT continues to address terrorism, which remains a challenge in the region, especially after Islamic militants infiltrated Malaysia in territory in 2013. Malaysia's many success in surviving over the years can be attributed to government strategies that address issues such as development, economy and land management. For example, program the Federal Land Development, which is FELDA, for poorer Malaysians, the Federal Land Consolidation and Rehabilitation Authority, which is FELCRA, the People Trust Council, which is MARA, a vision from Malaysians leadership to focus more on development rather than solely on weapons and defense acquisition. The Indo-Pacific presents a complex set and wide array of long-term strategy and short-term operational challenges for Indonesia. First of all is the issue of US-China strategic rivalry. While the Indo-Pacific is theoretically about expanding the region's strategic horizons, the centrality of the US-China strategic rivalry acts as a vortex that overrides other major currents, capturing most of the attention and focus of policymakers. The growing polarization that comes with the US-China dynamics also shapes China's recently worsening relations with regional powers, from Japan to South Korea and Australia. All these trends translate into shrinking strategic space and autonomy for Indonesia. Jakarta increasingly find it harder to make strategic policy decisions on infrastructure, technology and diplomacy without being entangled in some form of competitive dynamics over the Indo-Pacific. Given the centrality of the BRI projects in Malaysia's domestic political landscape, it is important to understand the way in which the projects are perceived by local communities and the consequent impact this has on the elite, government and political elites. With the goal in mind, the Asia Foundation recently released a study of community-level impact and perception of 2 BRI projects in Malaysia. The results indicate that local residents do not feel financial dependence on the Chinese projects in their midst, but rather call on this company to provide even more assistance to the local communities. The debt trap narrative for BRI in Malaysia has been soundly debunked by a Chatham House report, which argues that a majority of BRI projects in Malaysia, which first predate the 2013 start of the BRI. Second, do not involve strategic national assets. And third, were initiated by Malaysian stakeholders. Rather, the rise and fall of BRI fortunes in Malaysia is directly linked to domestic politics and the aspiration of national and subnational elites. As Indonesia responds to these regional developments, it's argued that Indonesia has shown policy response to the BRI and the Indo-Pacific concept by hedging against uncertainties created by China's economic greatness through the adoption of mutually contradictory policy options. Such a hedging strategy was present in various dimensions, which is adapting economic accommodation and economic diversification regarding the BRI. Taking confrontational strategies in maritime security tension with China while run for economic pragmatism, for attracting BRI funds and restraining reliance on China and its BRI by pushing forward ASEAN regional initiatives that use the Indo-Pacific term. The findings indicate that Indonesia's position is crucial for strengthening ASEAN status as the main regional organization under evolving regional politics.
So in conclusion, China is encouraging rapid economic growth and it owns lever and has demonstrated that it is willing to invest heavily in initiatives that will strengthen the BRI's infrastructure, trade and other forms of connectivity. So we can see that the BRI has a considerable impact on international trade, investment and financial environment. While IPS effort is in the Indo-Pacific continue to promote stronger relationship within and outside the region that allows countries to work together as a regional community and address common problems between the countries. However, the delicate relationship between BRI and IPS characterized by both competition and it is which will add more uncertainty to the global political economic situation. So the lesson that the power struggle between countries is only concerned with who is in power in terms of the economic strength. In measuring economic strength, competition each other country must examine the influence and impact that will occur rather than only the result in the future.
That's all from our group. Thank you for listening until the end of the presentation. Thank you, Doctor.